Hi and welcome to another tutorial. In today's lesson we'll learn how to recreate this cool looking text reveal effect using Adobe Premiere Pro. So anyways guys, let's jump in. So the first thing you'll have to do is you'll have to get a clip here. Now I've just set some in points and out points by pressing I and O on my keyboard for where I want this clip to start and where I want this to end. Now this clip is something I filmed with my Mavic 2 when I was down at Eden, but you can use any stock footage or whatever you want. Once you've got the clip, then we need to create a new sequence. Now for this composition, I'm going to use a 1080p 24 frame sequence. I'm just going to press OK. Now my clip was filmed in 4K, so what I have to do is I have to make sure that I keep the existing settings, and I make sure that I go and click on the clip, and I make sure that I set the scale down to 50%. Now if your clip is already scaled nicely or you download it from Pexels Video, you don't have to worry about this step. But anyways, so there's my clip and it's looking good. The next thing that we have to do is we have to add some text. So I'm just going to come over here to the T tool and I'm going to click once on my screen and I'm going to write my text. So I'm going to write The Rock. Now the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to change my font. So I'm going to use the Balboa Plus font, and you can use whatever font you want. If you want to change the size, you can change the size here as well. But I'm quite happy with the size like that. The only thing I do want to change is the spacing in between the words. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on this to move the spacing between the words a little bit closer together. And then the final thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that I put that into the center alignment. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I align it to the center of our sequence that we have here. So now that we've got our text, now we can actually start the animation process. So I'm going to leave the text right about there in the middle. All right, so I'm going to keep the duration of the text for about 5 seconds. That's the default duration. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and make sure that I'm on my text layer, and I'm going to go to my effects and I'm going to look for 2 effects that you can put on this text. So the first one is transform. So all you have to do is drag that to your text layer, and then you have to drag crop to your text layer. Once you've got those 2 effects on here, you then have to go and find your crop settings. So I'm going to click on crop here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring the bottom up right to the edge of that text, and I'm going to do the same for the top. So you want to put it right to the edge, and once you've done that, then all you need to do is you need to come over here to transform, and all we're going to do is move the position. Now if you've done this correctly, you can see how it creates that imaginary line, or that mask so to speak, and it gets rid of the text. So that's looking pretty cool. All right, so we know that it works. All right, so the next thing that we have to do is we're just going to come over here to the transform settings, and I'm just going to take off this use compositions shutter. All right, and I'm just going to change the shutter angle to 180. Now this will be very important for the animation part of this tutorial. So the first thing I'm going to do here for the animation is I'm going to make sure that I go to the edge of that text layer. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to transform. I'm going to click on the position icon over here. So this is the icon at this point. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that keyframe, but I'm going to hold shift and press right on my keyboard 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. And that's going to move it forward 15 frames. So this is our final spot. All right, so we're moving that keyframe that we started at the start, which is this one here, and we've moved it 15 frames to the right. I then am going to go to the start of the clip, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to move it off the screen just like that. So now if you play that back, now we've got that text coming in, and you can see here, if you look at it, you can see that there's a little bit of motion blur in there, and that's because we we're using our own shutter angle here, so it just makes it look a little bit nicer. So now what we need to do is we need to dress up this animation a little bit more. So what we're going to do is we're just going to highlight those 2 keyframes, and then you're going to right click, and then you're going to go down to here, and you're just going to click on auto bezier. And once you've done that, nothing really happens besides these keyframes turn into these little circle things. You then have to click this little arrow over here, and then you get this graph. All right, now it's a little bit hard to see, so you're gonna have to zoom in. So you can click and drag this so that you can see what you're doing. So now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna click on this little icon over here, and we're gonna drag it, and we're also gonna pull it down as well. And we're gonna do the same for the other side. So now you don't wanna bring them all the way close to the middle, but you wanna get pretty close. All right, and so now if we preview that, this is going to cause an acceleration in our animation. So as you can see, it kind of ramps up, and then it kind of hits that very fast point, and then it all comes together nicely. Now, if you don't like how fast that is moving, you can always, separate these two things. So maybe you could move it back a little bit more. You just have to click on the keyframe, and then you can click on that point, and then you can lower that peak. So you can play around with some of those settings, and you can find something that you like. So now all we have to do is we have to repeat that on the other side of this animation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this keyframe first, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way to the end. All right, and then I'm going to press Shift and press the left arrow 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to paste that keyframe in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same for the start keyframe, but this time I'm going to hold Shift and go right 3 times back to where I was, and then paste it in there. And now all we have to do is we just have to fix up that graph. So we're just going to come in here and move it closer to the center until you get that nice peak, and that should be good. So now when we preview this back, you can see that the text flies in, and then the text kind of flies out as well. So that's looking really nice. The final thing that we're going to add to this is we're just going to come over here and just add some drop shadow to that text. All right, and that makes a little bit of a difference. Now you can go and change, how dark you want the drop shadow by changing the opacity, or you can change the distance as well. So maybe something like 15 would be pretty good, so you can actually see it. And then the final thing we're going to do is we're just going to come over here and add a new adjustment layer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this adjustment layer on the top of this entire clip, and actually I'm going to put the text layer on top of that adjustment layer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and add the crop bars. So I'm just going to grab the crop effect. I'm going to go to the top and bottom as 12%. Now we've made it look a little bit more cinematic, and that's looking pretty cool. If your text is too big, this is the time to maybe make it a little bit smaller. And the final thing that we can do is we can add some Lumetri color to the adjustment layer, and we can go into creative, and then maybe put a certain look if you like, and then you can just maybe change it to something that suits you. So anyway, so there you go. There's a quick little tutorial on how to create a very simple text reveal using Adobe Premiere Pro. I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.